when will Chris do an open show? Because you've teased it quite a bit, and more recently now than ever, about possibly doing an open show. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think there needs to be a little bit more clarification, because people go, oh, maybe he can get an invite to the Olympia.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Just pull out of the Classic Elite and go in the open.
That's it. That's it. So tell me about what your mindset is with that, how it was before, how it is now, and what is your mental stance on getting ready for an open show? I know you've talked about it. You even teased it a little bit when we did our seminar in the Arnold last year, but where are you with that?
So as I always say, I would never push myself on certain things and train at a certain level and do anything throughout like a year or 2 years time to be in the open. Like, I don't want to push for a year to be in the open, but I would love to peak for an open show. You know, maybe 1 year if time allows it, my health allows it, and we're just like, I'm in shape post Olympia or something.
It's showtime.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, Chris Bumstead considering doing an open bodybuilding competition. Now, this has long been a topic of conversation with him, you know, kind of posting hints here and there, and it's kind of been an exhaustive conversation. People were tired of even me talking about it, and I was getting kind of tired of talking about it too. These what if he did come and compete in open, and these little hints that he was dropping. Well, in a recent episode of Hani Rambod's The Truth podcast, Hani asked him point blank, would you be interested in doing an open bodybuilding show? And like specifically, what are your thoughts pertaining to doing an open show? And Chris says he would like to peak for an open show once in his career. He thinks next year, 2024, after the Olympia, he said, we'll see what happens with classic physique and then go on to do maybe a random open show. It seemed like his interest doesn't really lie in competing in the Open Olympia, but then at the very end of that segment of the podcast, he does go on to say, well, yeah, if I had the opportunity to get a special invite for the 2024 Open Olympia, maybe I would do that. So he kind of drops this bomb at the end of it, but I don't think that is the likely scenario. I do think the likely scenario would be him to just do a random smaller open show just to test the waters, because that's what a lot of these guys want to do. These guys that are at the top of 212, this is the biggest example of that. These guys want to see how they would do against the big boys, against the freaks. And you see it with Clarita, Kamal, even Derek Lunsford, who did very well in men's open bodybuilding, and even Flex Lewis towards the end of his 212 career. He wanted to see how he would do an open. He ended up not doing that, but it was something he was interested in. So why should the classic physique guys not have this same interest? You've basically seen every single 212 champion over the last 4 champions want to do open because it is the big show. It's the big money. It's the big stage. Even though classic physique is quickly rising in popularity, open bodybuilding is still the freak show. It's still the big dance. So why should we not expect a guy like Chris Bumstead, who has now won multiple classic physique Olympia titles, to wonder, you know, I'm this good in this division. I'm an IFBB pro. How would I do against these other guys? How strong am I in open bodybuilding? Is it just classic physique, or am I good across the board? He's got to wonder this because Chris is a big guy. He's a tall guy. He's got a commanding stage presence, and his conditioning is really good. He's got really good lines. He's got a really good structure. All of these things, even though he's more perfectly tailored to classic physique, all of these things are strong points in open bodybuilding as well. So why would he not wonder that? And now in this podcast, I feel like we finally get to see how much interest he really has in possibly doing that someday. And I think now it's basically confirmed, because this is what he's hinted at before, is if he did a show, it probably wouldn't be the Olympia, but it would be some random show that maybe he could peak for and just see how he does, maybe come in 10 pounds heavier max. I think he competes in the mid-low 230s. That's what he actually weighs on stage, so maybe he would be 245, 250 on an open bodybuilding stage with his frame, and I think he's 6'1". Honestly, I think he could do really well, and I honestly think he would be surprised at how well he does. And I think the bigger question would be, well, he talks about not doing the Olympia or talks about maybe getting a special invite, but I think the bigger question would be if he did win the open show that he chooses to do, and it was a fairly good caliber of competition, that would mean he would qualify for the Olympia that year. Now, if he qualified for both Classic and Open, assuming he wins the 2023 Classic Olympia, would he come to the same choice as Sean Clarita? Would he have to pick one? Because we learned with Sean Clarita, the Olympia is not open to offering or allowing you to do both. I think if he did win an open show, he would want to put his foot in the pool, test the waters, and see how he would do at the Open Olympia if he qualified. I really think he would want to do that. Next year, this year, if he wins the Olympian Classic, it'll be his 5th Classic Physique Olympia title. That is a dynasty for Chris Bumstead. And then if he goes on to do an open show and qualifies, I really think he would do the Open Olympia, and honestly, I think he would do well. Now, I'm not going to jump the gun here and say I think he would win the thing, but I think he could be in the first call-out. I do think he could be in the first call-out at the Open Olympia. And then you've got Hani Rambod over here, who is going to be basically the crossover king after what he was able to do with Derek Lunsford. He completely turned Derek's physique around, by the way, when Derek was in 212. Got Derek to win that 212 Olympia title, then turned Derek's physique around to be top 2 runner-up at the Open Olympia, and runner-up, by the way, to Hani's other client, Hadi Chupin. So imagine a scenario where Hani Rambod is coaching Chris Bumstead for the Open Olympia, Derek Lunsford for the Open Olympia, and Hadi Chupin for the Open Olympia, and imagine that there was some kind of possibility where they could be the top 3 that year. Because honestly, I don't think that possibility is that far-fetched. I do think Chris would have to come in a little bit fuller, and I do think he would have to put on some size to be competitive at the Olympia, but I honestly think that his classic physique, winning physique, could win probably most regular open shows, but it's a little bit different at the Olympia. And I say that because Chris does say that he doesn't want to put on, or he doesn't want to push his body too hard because of some of the health conditions that he's had in the past and that he still currently has or deals with, which is totally understandable, but I really don't think he would have to push his physique too hard to just win an open show. I think the Olympia would be another conversation, the Open Olympia that is, but to win an open show, I honestly don't think he would have to push it super hard or any harder than he does for the Classic Olympia. Now, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about what this recent podcast means. Do you think he's actually going to do it? Do you think he's not? Is he just teasing still? To me, this podcast is confirmation that there is serious, legitimate interest from both Chris and Hani in Chris doing an open show, maybe the Open Olympia. Keep in mind, Hani did a very similar podcast with Derek before Derek officially announced he was switching to open, and Derek essentially said the same thing. He didn't confirm he was going to do it, but he kind of danced around it, and then look what Derek ended up doing. I think we might see something similar from Chris Bumstead. And if he were able to make first call-out, I think Hani Rambod goes down as one of the best coaches in the history. He already does. He already is one of the best coaches in the history of bodybuilding, but if he were able to do that kind of a crossover for not only Derek, but for Chris as well, I think Hani goes down as probably the greatest coach of all time. Now, next up in the news, a recent update from Hunter Labrada. Now, this was interesting to me because I think the main thing that a lot of people were really criticizing Hunter for pretty harshly after seeing him at the Olympia in 2022 was his midsection. He lost a little bit of that aesthetic flow that his physique had. I think his midsection was blown out, especially at the finals. And I think a lot of people noticed, including the judges, and I think that was a big part of the reason why he slipped as many placings as he did, and he acknowledges that in this recent update where he's hitting a vacuum pose. He says, "Nobody was more disappointed with my waistline at this year's Olympia than I was. Every day since then, I've done my fasted cardio followed by vacuums. This is separate from the abdominal work that I do after training, and when I first started, I could barely pull my belly button past my sternum, and this was in the morning at 280 pounds. Fasted. And this is a pretty impressive vacuum regardless of what he weighs, but at 280 pounds, I think that's a pretty impressive depth of that vacuum. Looking forward to continuing to do the work needed to bring a physique that I'm proud of next time I step on stage." Now, honestly, with Lee Labrada as his dad, I'm kind of surprised he wouldn't have been practicing vacuums on a regular basis going into either of the Olympias that he already competed in. Keep in mind, Rolly Winkler, when he fixed his midsection, he said one of the things that really helped him a lot was daily vacuum poses. He says that's one of the things that really helped him not only control his midsection on stage, but he believes that it actually tapered down his midsection overall. Charles Griffin said the same thing. And I think he's the best example of that because he kind of changed his whole physique by hitting the vacuum pose, because prior to that he wasn't hitting it on stage, and now he is. And I think he's one of those guys that looks much better with a vacuum than without. And now Hunter Labrada, I really think that if he has not been doing it already, it's surprising, but it's great that he's doing it now. So what do you guys think? Do you think Hunter is going to be able to find himself back in the top 6, the first call out at the Olympia next year, now, or this year rather? And he's going to have to qualify this time around, which is going to be interesting to see what show he does. I think probably Tampa or Chicago would be the likely candidates for Hunter at this point. But, we'll see. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about the Arnold Classic a little bit more, and one of the competitors that's going to be competing there, Akim Williams. So a recent update from Akim, you get a side profile. And I got to say, Akim is actually looking pretty impressive here. And I'm a bit hesitant to predict a high placing for Akim just based on the track record that we've seen from him over the past couple of years. He had that first call at the Olympia a couple years back. In pretty much every show since then, I feel like his conditioning has slipped and gotten worse, kind of climaxing in the Olympia this year, where he placed like last. Now, Akim has a great physique. The bottom line is he's got a ton of size, a really good structure for the amount of muscle that he carries, really small waist for the amount of muscle that he carries. But he's always struggled with consistency with his conditioning. And even the time that he was in that first call out at the Olympia, I don't think he truly nailed it. He was much better than he typically is, but it still wasn't 100% on. Now, we are a week out from the Arnold Classic, so these guys should be looking good. They should be looking detailed. We should see this type of update from most of the guys in the lineup at this point, but you can see a very shredded side abdominal wall. His serratus is shredded. You can see all kinds of separation and detail in his quads, in his glutes, and his hamstrings from the side. But it's the upper body in the back that typically holds him back. You can see in his chest and his shoulders, you're not seeing a whole lot of striations. You can see it really good in the lower body, and like I said, his abs look pretty dialed in this update. You can see those striations in the serratus, and that oblique area looks pretty good for Akim. But still, the upper body, to me, the chest, the arms, the delts, they're big, they're round, they're full, but you're still not seeing that level of detail and striation that you would expect to see for a guy that's 1 week out from a show. But this update to me is kind of surprising and I think encouraging. I think there is a chance that Akim has a high placing at the Arnold Classic. I don't think he's going to be in the running to win, but it's entirely possible. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, we did get another update from Nick Walker that I saw a lot of people tagging me in. Nick Walker showing off his condition. Now, this was a couple days ago. We did also get another update from Nick after this one. This one was from Matt Jansen specifically, though. I don't think Nick ever actually reposted it on his page. But anyway, Matt Jansen, Nick's coach, posted this a day ago. And Matt says, this will go down as the hardest to date that we've pushed into a show. See y'all next week. And he shows off Nick's basically glutes and hamstrings, and you can see he's already got some striations on his glutes. Very separated and detailed hamstrings. Nick Walker, I think, has been on a mission to come in better than he came in at the Olympia. I think the Olympia this year was the best version of Nick that we had ever seen, and I think his mission for this Arnold Classic is to beat that look. Now, I think that's certainly not going to be an easy feat to accomplish. I think Nick has his work cut out for him because he did look very, very impressive at the Olympia with his top 3 placing. It kind of goes without saying, but I honestly think he's on track to do that. I think he's very consistent, by the way. Nick really always says what he's going to do. He does what he says he's going to do, rather. He talks a lot of talk, but he backs it up. He's consistently getting better. He's consistently winning shows. He's consistently improving. His placing at the Olympia has consistently gotten higher, and he has not yet let us down. So he does talk a big game, but he really does back it up. And I think when he says, and his coach is saying, that he's going to be basically his best ever at the Arnold, I think we don't have any reason to not believe him. In fact, we have more reasons to believe him than to doubt him because he's backed up everything that he said so far. So I think while Nick has a tough road ahead of him to beat himself, his former Olympia package, I think every other competitor in this lineup has a more difficult task ahead of them to win the Arnold Classic because Nick is standing in their way. And I think right now he's the favorite to win. Even with Rami, even with Clarita, I really don't feel that Nick is going to lose this thing. But like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Make sure you buy the Arnold Classic pay-per-view pre-sale with code NSP10. If you use that code and you get it right now, you can get it for $45 instead of $60. You guys know you're going to watch it. You might as well buy it early, save some money, and get it for $45 instead of $60. Code NSP10 if you guys want to see Nick Walker win the Arnold Classic. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.